Today we speed paint the drone for Nemesis Retaliation. With this Nemesis painting series, I'm painting two different versions of each model where I'll speed paint one with an airbrush and I'll paint the other using slap chop. This particular miniature is a bit of an oddity in the series where the slap chop version of the miniature I painted came out so good that it made me not want to paint the airbrush version. But I pressed on and came up with a solution that I think came out pretty nice. So let's get started and welcome to Treehane Miniatures. I really do love using the airbrush for speed painting. Well, that is after I get over the initial dread I feel about setting everything up. But once I get going, everything goes so fast and smooth. I'm only using two colors through the airbrush for this guy. As I work from darker color layers to lighter layers, I spray the model at an increasingly steep angle from above or from wherever I want the light source to be coming. It's basically like applying a zenithal highlight with an airbrush, but instead of a grayscale, I'm using the shadow color and midtone colors for the miniature. I recently upgraded my $16 airbrush to a Gallery Mobius 0.3mm airbrush. The results that I get with this airbrush honestly aren't much different than what I got with a cheap airbrush, but everything about the Gallery feels so much more refined. It has a smoother trigger, more predictable paint flow, and cleaning it is a lot easier. My cheap airbrush will now be my sole priming airbrush, and this video is not sponsored in any way by Gallery or however you pronounce that company's name. I'm going to add some depth and separation to these violet hues by slapping a dark violet oil wash over the miniature. I whipped up this oil wash by mixing up some alizarin crimson and phthalo blue oil paints, which I then thinned substantially with mineral spirits. Since, at the moment, I'm only painting up a single miniature for this video, I'm choosing to apply the oil wash with a standard brush. This is pretty normal, but it's definitely not the fastest way to accomplish this task. When batch painting, I like to make a larger batch of oil wash thinned to a pin wash consistency and then dip my miniatures in the wash, followed by a quick spin to remove the excess. This also eliminates the need for removing the oil wash with a sponge later. But the method I'm using here is more convenient to film, so it's what you're getting with today's video. I remove the oil wash from the raised surfaces of the miniature with a makeup sponge. I picked these sponges up at Walmart for 99 cents for a pack of 30. I only use them once and then I toss them. This removal step is super gentle. I didn't allow the paint to set up much, so there's no reason to press hard. For a grittier look, I'll allow the oil wash to dry for about 10 minutes before I begin using the sponge, but in this case I just want to create some color separation in the recesses of the miniature, so I chose to promptly attack the oil wash with the sponge. Some detail work is almost always better carried out with a standard brush than with an airbrush. This is particularly true for hard-to-reach recessed parts like teeth and tongues. It also comes in handy when adding additional colors to the miniature after the airbrush has been cleaned and put away. While waiting for the oil wash to dry on this guy, I decided to knock out the slap chop version of the drone. I came up with some color combos on that piece that I had never intended to incorporate on this model. In fact, it came out so good that it made me not want to finish painting this airbrushed version of the drone. I figured that I'd stumbled upon the best way to paint these drones with slap chop, so there was no point in continuing with this nonsense. But instead of letting discouragement get the best of me, I chose to include the new color combinations on this airbrush piece as well, but with standard acrylic paints of course. The main color that I added to this piece is the dark jade, which I feel helps add some much needed interest to the carapace and gauntlets. And what's crazy is that I ended up happier with this version of the paint job in the end. One pretty obvious pitfall with this style of speed painting is how easy it is to lose sight of the speed part of the speed painting. Once the standard brush comes out to add details and final highlights, I can get caught up in the refinement process and lose focus. One detail leads to the next detail. I paint one part well, so now I want to paint other parts well. And before I know it, I'm no longer speed painting. It's a slippery slope that can result in much more time being spent on a miniature than originally intended. It really comes down to speed discipline. If my goal is to speed paint a batch of miniatures, I need to enter a mindset where I'm prioritizing speed over refinement. With this particular miniature, I did a pretty good job staying on task and getting it painted up super fast, but I am not always this disciplined. It also helps that this is a fairly simplistic sculpt without too many colors in play. The fewer colors, the faster the paint job. I could have carried on with the airbrush for the final highlight color as well, but I'm really glad that I decided to finish up the detail highlights on this guy with a standard brush instead. By proceeding all the way up to the final highlight color with the airbrush, and then following it up with an oil wash, I would have finished this miniature in less time than it takes to slap chop the model. But it's not always about speed for me. I enjoy applying paint to a miniature with a brush, and considering what little is left to paint on this model, it's still super fast. Plus, I would have finished this guy before I tried out the slap chop version, so I wouldn't have been inspired to add more interesting colors to the piece. It would have been a pretty standard skin highlighting process without the addition of the dark jade. I'd like to thank my channel members for supporting my work on this channel. You too can become a channel member and support the channel by using the link in the video description down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to join our growing community of alien hunters.